morning and welcome back to our midday Bible study, as we call it, with the Faith Doctor. As you can see, you're not getting to see the Faith Doctor today. We are going to be your faith
nurse practitioners.
Yeah. So he has taught us well, he has poured into us well, so we're just going to share a little Bible nugget with you today. Since Pastor JP is not up here sharing with you, it's going to be, they call me Kiki or Keandra or Coach Kiki. They're all me. And this is...
I'm Taylor, and I'm sure you guys have seen me before, but I'm so glad to be with you again.
All right. So we're going to dive into it today. If you've been tuning in, you know that Pastor JP is always teaching about faith. And here lately in our midday Bible studies, he's talked about hope and he's talked about faith from Hebrews 11. And so he's talking about, making the decisions and having an active faith and just deciding that this is what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to put my hope and my trust and moving forward. So we're going to talk about turning point faith, because I think a lot of us are at that moment, especially if you're kind of new to the faith ministry and things like that. It's like, you have to make a decision. It's that fork in the road where you can't keep going like you've been going because, whether it's resources are out or I'm tired or my energy, I just don't know what to do anymore. But it's time to make a decision. Am I going to go with faith or am I going to keep moving in my own will, which hasn't been working?
Right. And I will also say that I'm 32 and I feel like I reached this point in my life about a year or so ago when I said, I have a relationship with God. I've been in the church my entire life, but at some point I wanted more. I wanted something different, and I didn't know how to get it. I didn't know what to do. So for me, I felt like that's when I reached my turning point. And so this is also really important for young adults who aren't so seasoned in their faith. That's why, we call ourselves the nurse practitioners. We're not the faith doctors yet, but we are literally putting our faith into practice and into action so that we can grow that. So I think that's why we chose this topic.
Yeah, and that can be daunting too. That, I'm glad you brought that up about younger people because, we're trying. We're trying, and it's not always easy. So sometimes you have your role models and your spiritual leaders who show you how it goes. We can honestly say our pastors, day in and day out, they show us how to actually walk the faith life. They don't just preach and teach, but they actually give that real life example. And sometimes it's kind of like, ooh, it's kind of daunting, like it feels like if they walked outside and said, hey, mountain move now, Red Mountain would literally get up and jump to the other side of the freeway, and it's like, it's kind of like,
I'm not there.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. So what do I do?
Yeah, so we kind of sat down and tried to figure out some practical steps to just talk about literally what does a turning point look like, to be mindful of. I may not be there. I may not be, that woman in the crowd that's looking at the disciples walking next to Jesus. I'm not walking right next to him, but I'm trying to get to it.
There, yes.
So what is it that I can do, okay?
Right.
All right.
So the first, let's just jump right into it. Point number one, assess your current situation and recognize your turning point.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so bogged down in day-to-day activities, work, kids, church, whatever our responsibilities are. Bills. Oh my gosh. Say it again one time. Bills. Okay. We get so bogged down in that, and we don't take the time to step back and assess, what do I want? Where is my life right now? And where do I want to be? We don't take the time to set goals because God has probably put a turning point right in your face and you simply are too busy to recognize it. So number one is recognizing your turning point. And, this takes us back to the Israelites in the wilderness. They didn't realize that they were at their turning point. So here we are. We've been freed from Pharaoh's grasp. We are no longer slaves, but we're also not where we want to be. We're not in the promised land. We're not living that carefree life that we want, that God has promised us. Why is that? They haven't realized this is our turning point. So instead of,
because of it.
yes, they suffered. Many of them did not get to see the promised land. Their descendants did not get to see the promised land because they forfeited that blessing simply because they didn't recognize their turning point and follow the steps to work through it.
I think it's also worth mentioning that a lot of times your turning point does come in a wilderness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the wilderness is not, it may not look like wandering through the desert, literally, but we all have our own wilderness as a country, as a group, as a church, as relationships, as individuals. We all have our own wilderness. It looks different. The wilderness is uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. You can't see very far sometimes. Sometimes it's too hot. Sometimes it's too cold. Sometimes I don't have the water that I feel like I need to survive. Where's my food coming from? Like, it's just, it's personal. But I think it is very important to remember that the wilderness is ordained for purpose. Okay?
Say it again, that was good.
I think it's important, write it down. I think it's important to remember that the wilderness is ordained for purpose.
Yeah.
When the Israelites left Pharaoh and Moses was taking them through in, what is this? Exodus 13. I'll read it. Exodus 13, 17, and 18. Sure, pull it up for me.
Gotcha.
But God said specifically, yes, this is the shortest route to where I need you to take them. However, if you take them this way, they may see some things they don't want to see. They may experience some things that they're not quite spiritually ready for yet and turn back. So take them through the wilderness so that they can reach what I have for them. Right? Let's see. It says, so it happened when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, even though it was nearer. For God said, the people might change their minds when they see war, that is, that there will be war, and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. He led them through the wilderness towards the Red Sea. Also earlier, when God healed the leper, and he sent him on his way and he said, don't tell other people about this, it still got out. And so people were like, his reputation preceded him. They were coming to get healed and hear what he had to say. But it says he often withdrew to the wilderness. He often withdrew to the wilderness to pray. So I think the wilderness is for you to ground yourself. I think the wilderness is for that deeper connection so that you can see, hey, it's my turning point.
Right. So recognizing and assessing your situation, you have to purposefully put yourself in a position to hear from God. You have to go to your wilderness. That is a very special place of vulnerability.
Yeah.
There's no one there but you and God. It's not pretty. It doesn't feel good. Like you said, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, it's dark. But you have to be very intentional if you want to be at this point where you see your turning point and you make that move, that faith move. You have to be very intentional about saying, you know what, let me step back from life. Let me step back from the day-to-day to-do list. Let me step back from some of my responsibilities just so I can get quiet and go to my special wilderness and see where God is taking me.
Because you also think about isolation in the wilderness.
Right.
Right. That means secluding yourself. Sometimes you can't keep on with your day-to-day when you're in a wilderness. You have to literally take time away. He withdrew to pray. Take time away to ground yourself.
Right.
That's very important.
Right.
All right, so the first one was assessing your current situation, recognizing
your turning point.
It is a turning point. Yeah. It's time. What's number 2?
Number 2, get a gritty mindset.
Ooh.
What does that mean? Get a gritty mindset. Don't worry about it, I'll tell you. Hold on a second. It is the ability to persist in something you feel passionate about and persevere when you face obstacles. This kind of passion is not about intense emotion or infatuation. It's about having direction and commitment. When you have this kind of passion, you stay committed to a task that may be difficult or boring. So what that means is that gritty mindset means no matter what I see, I'm going to persevere. And that, what is that called? That's called faith. We say gritty mindset, but ultimately that's active faith. That's putting your faith to work. And I was instantly reminded of the woman with the issue of blood. She has suffered for 12 years. 12 years she suffered, and she knew this man was coming. This man who she had faith that this man could be the man that would relieve her of her suffering. But he's also popular. Like Keandra said, his reputation precedes him. There's a crowd of people around him. So she didn't say, well, let me go back home and just, maybe, I'll just keep praying. No, she had gritty faith. So gritty that she got down on her hands and knees and crawled through the crowds of people to him. That's gritty.
That's gritty. Because you know that issue of blood ain't no joke sometimes.
Period.
So why was she? Why was she crawling? Was she crawling because the crowd, she couldn't get through standing straight up, so she's crawling between people's legs?
Right.
Was she on her hands and knees because she was in so much pain? Because she had it for 12 years? And it says that she had spent all her money at physicians. There was no cure. So no matter what, that she could have said, what? Ugh.
And back then, if, when you're having your issue of blood, you were unclean. You weren't pure. You weren't supposed to be around people. But she had for 12 years. So she had no friends. She didn't have people around her. So she had to say, okay, she was in her wilderness for 12 years. 12 years. And she said, okay, I have to do what I have to do. And she crawled on her knees just to touch the hem of his garment. She had that much faith that said, if I just touch his garment, he doesn't have to see me. He doesn't have to say anything to me. If I can just get close enough to touch the fringe on his robe, I will be healed. That's gritty faith.
Yeah, she made up her mind. She recognized her turning point, and she said, no matter what,
right,
I'm going to do what I need to do.
Right.
I like another example of having a gritty mindset is the paralytic. If you'll journey with me to Luke 5.
Okay, Pastor JP.
Luke 5:18-20. I'm going to read, and it says, in the Amplified Version, it says, some men came carrying on a stretcher a man who was paralyzed, and they tried to bring him in and lay him down in front of Jesus. But finding no way to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and removed some tiles to make an opening and lowered him through the tiles with his stretcher into the middle of the crowd in front of Jesus. When Jesus saw their active faith, springing from confidence in him, he said, man, your sins are forgiven. Talk about no matter what. They could have seen that crowd. They could have gotten to the door and they said, oh, sorry, tickets are sold out. All right, well, I guess we'll take him back home. Think about, they carried him. We've already done manual labor, whether it was from around the corner or from miles away, they carried that man. And when they couldn't get in, they said, you know what, let's climb up to the roof. Let's take this stuff off the roof.
Let's carry him to the roof.
And then they didn't just drop him. He could have died there too. They lowered him. Do you know how much strength they had to?
That's gritty. That's
not just mental, but physical. No matter what. And that brings me to a sub point of getting a gritty mindset. You need to have you a gritty circle.
Yep.
You need to have you a gritty circle because Jesus looked at them and said, your sins are forgiven. Let me keep reading. The scribes and the Pharisees began to consider and question the implications of what he had said, saying, who is this man who speaks blasphemies by claiming the rights and prerogatives of God, who can forgive sins, that is, remove guilt, nullify sin's penalty, and assign righteousness, except God alone? But Jesus, knowing their hostile thoughts, answered them, why are you questioning these things in your heart? Which is easier to say, your sins are forgiven you, or to say, get up and walk? But in order that you may know that the Son of Man, the Messiah, has authority and power on earth to forgive sins, he said to the paralyzed man, I say to you, get up, pick up your stretcher, and go home. 25 says, he immediately stood up before them, picked up his stretcher, and went home glorifying and praising God. it didn't say anything
about his homeboys. Right.
What? Those are true friends. Those are sincere friends who really want the best for you. Those are like, was he on the stretcher crying? You know, because in a different version it says, because of their faith, you've been made whole. Who is there? Was he talking to somebody else and meant the man and his friends? Was he talking to the man and was saying because of your friend's faith? Either way, it wasn't just because of your faith or because of his faith. Yeah. It was a group because of their faith. So sometimes you have people that's just, you know, they're going to ride with you to see what they can get, but they really don't care about you, right? And if he wasn't pushing for himself, what if his friends were like, come on, we're going to get you there. We know you can't get there. We're going to get you there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Your circle needs to have you leveling up, not down, right? So even though if you have those people that's like, I'm going to put him down, let Jesus heal him, then I'm going to see if he can heal my little toe right here. You know what I'm saying? They got nothing. It says nothing of them.
And in the Bible, it goes right next to the next parable.
Yeah,
it doesn't say they waited in line patiently for their, nothing. That's it. That's
they
it.
Did
and that's
all that work.
Right. Yeah, and that's the kind of, if you're going to have gritty faith, or even if you're wavering in your faith, you want to make sure that you are in the right circle of people. The circle of people that are going to be gritty with you. Yeah. The circle of people that are going to say, okay, you're wavering today, but guess what? I got you. And you know that you're that friend to them as well. I don't want to be on the other end of it. I want to be that friend that says, I'm going to do what I have to do to get you where you need to be. Yeah. We're going to be gritty together because, you know, there's something greater for all of us on the other side of that turning point. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we got to assess your situation.
Number 1.
Recognize your turning point. Number 2 is get you a gritty mindset.
Active faith.
Active faith. 2B is get you a gritty group of friends.
Right.
And our last point is always look for your next turning point. Like the faith walk is turning point after turning point after turning point. Okay?
Right.
So you level up now. He's going to give you a little assignment on this level, take you to some new people, some new resources on this level, or it may be a time of yourself. But either way, there's an assignment on this level, and there's going to be another turning point. And there's going to be another turning point because it's faith to faith and glory to glory.
Right. I think there's something to be said for the fact that the Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. 40 years. Jesus. So they were at their turning point for 40 years before they actually saw the manifestation of what God promised them. So you have to have that gritty mindset that perseveres. That's what the definition said it. You persevere even when you get bored because you've reached this level and now you kind of get bored here. But you still have to persevere and keep that gritty mindset until you see manifestation of what you want. Because the other thing about that, you have to be mindful of the fact that the people attached to you are also going to benefit from your next level. Or they're going to be held back from your next level. The Bible says that the Israelites that didn't make it to the promised land, it wasn't just them. Their ancestors, their children, their grandchildren, they did not make it. They did not get to see what God promised them. If only they had stayed focused and kept that gritty mindset for generations to come, they would have been living under the promises of God. So you have to be mindful, not only for yourself, but you know that's kind of why the wilderness is important as well, because you have that time to commune with God by yourself, and then when you come out, you have a full cup, an overflowing cup to pour from. Because if you're working and grinding, I got to do this, you feel like that's your gritty mindset, but ultimately God isn't in it, you're pouring from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And your children and your children's children, they are not benefiting from what you consider to be gritty or what you consider to be grinding. But if you take time in your wilderness, when you come out, everybody and everything attached to you benefits from you making that sharp turn that God has put in front of you.
Yeah, because the dead stuff had to fall off before they could take that land of milk and honey.
Right. That's why they were wandering around the wilderness. The unbelievers had to die. They had to literally die. And once they were gone, God said, okay, now you may enter. But so do you want to hold on to that? Or do you want to say, I want to be a part of the crew that made it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, what can you identify?
Oh, I didn't know you were going to ask me questions. Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead.
What? And I want you guys watching to think about this too, to kind of just assess and go back and analyze and see God in things, because sometimes that's a faith booster too.
Mm-hmm.
Just to remember your own testimony, what He brought you through. This was a turning point. I clearly had no other way to do this, but that was God.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you identify in your life, either recently, a long time ago, that was a turning point for you, that led you in a good or bad direction?
I think I would say the choice to leave my job in corporate America and work for the kingdom.
Ooh.
Because that was my turning point, because not only had I reached this place of almost complacency, I wasn't, before I left my job, I was not living paycheck to paycheck. Like, kind of for the first time in my life, I was seeing some overflow. Mm-hmm. So I was getting super comfortable. I was moving up in my company. My boss literally quit maybe a month before I did. So that was just a wide open gate. They were like, Taylor, that's for you. And I was like, is it? Is this my turning point? Do I go left or do I go right? So I had to take some time in my own wilderness and say, but what do you want? Mm-hmm. Because ultimately, I liked what I did. I was very good at what I did, but I wasn't really happy with my job. I felt like the people that I work with could really kind of care less about whether I, like if Taylor's not here, we're going to be okay. And that's how most people should feel in corporate America. Everybody's replaceable. That's how I feel. But I feel like, I feel like everybody's replaceable. And I told some staff members that too. But I was good at my job, and it was comfortable. I was very comfortable there. But I wanted more. I wanted so much more out of life. And it's hard to watch your pastors, the faith doctors, say, we left all this behind. We did, and we did $1
million company.
Yeah, and we're so much happier with it. And I'm like, what? So I was like, okay, well, this is kind of my version of their turning point.
Yeah.
So do I turn left and go with what's comfortable, what I consider to be prosperous, what the world would consider to be prosperous, or do I say, I'm going to follow God. I'm going to get some gritty faith, and I'm going to completely and utterly trust Him. And I'm going to go right. And that was the best decision I could have ever made. And I'm ready for my next turning point. I'm looking for the next big thing that God has for me. And I believe that making that decision will benefit me, my family, and my friends and generations to come because of that decision.
Mm-hmm. And walking in obedience, you were talking about not having to live paycheck to paycheck before you left your corporate America job. Did you go back to paycheck when you made that turning point?
No, I did not. I did not. It's blessing on blessing on blessings, overflow. Like, it's been amazing. Even in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
And sometimes it's a different kind of prosperity, because sometimes he will allow you to see, okay, this paycheck, I got enough. And sometimes you can't see it, but you miss nothing. You miss nothing.
Yeah.
I think a turning point for me, and I know, sometimes people kind of cringe about this, but I think a huge turning point for me was when I really had to become a faithful tither.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Had to become a faithful tither.
Yes.
Because I grew up in church and I knew God gets that first 10 at least, but I wasn't doing it all the time. Like, if I got my paycheck, it was like, ooh, by the time I pay rent and the power bill, I'm gonna have $5 for the rest of the week. I was like, okay, God, I wanted to, but I got you on the next paycheck, right? And so under my pastors, they really challenged us, like, just this is one area that God says, try me and see. You know, so I was like, what can I lose? I'm already, you know how when people are drowning, they come up to breathe and then they just go right back under. That is exhausting, right? I felt like I was drowning financially, paycheck to paycheck, not enough. Who can I borrow from? Where can I get a loan from? Like, it was going deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's important to say, if many of you guys know us, and some of you may not, hello, we are sister best friends, and we are also roommates. And for me, tithing was, it was like, I remember to do it today, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't necessarily like, well, we got all these bills, so I'm not going to do it. It was like, you know, but living together and like sharing the responsibility of the household, she was the overthinker, the over budgeter. She would have the budget written out. Oh, I'm gonna put you out. She would have the budget written out for like months. I'm like, what? So I was just like, girl, pay what you can pay today. Look at the rest of like that wasn't my struggle. Like, that wasn't me. But I also knew that like I like things, and I like to shop, and I like to go out to eat, and I like to do stuff. So it was like, for me, paycheck to paycheck meant I can't really do all the extra stuff that I want to do, but I wasn't concerned about a bill. This one though,
Yeah.
oh, so again, get yourself a gritty circle.
Yeah.
Because there were times where she would be like, we're not gonna make it, we're not gonna make it. So then I'd be like, no,
she was my grit.
You're fine, you got it. And then there are times when, like, I think for me, my struggle is more, am I good enough for, you know, anything, any task? Am I good enough? And then here she comes. Duh, of course you are. So you have to know what your gritty circle has to know you very well, and know when to encourage you, when to push you, when to stretch you, and when to tell you to sit down somewhere and take a break.
Yeah.
Because that's also her.
So, but yeah, when I finally dove into that, to lean on my gritty circle, you know, my sister friend and my pastors, and take in what was being poured into me, and then apply it and walk in it. Once I became a faithful tither, and God could see that I was being faithful, so it wasn't like I paid it this time, because you're not gonna trick God, right? You're not gonna pay it this time and get this miracle this week, and then you don't pay it next. He wants to see that you really trust him, right? So once I did that, it was like, let me call and pay the car note, and they're like, hey, you don't owe us anything. What? You know, or
recent testimony.
Yeah, I mean, and it's still an ever-present fight, kinda. I was in a meeting literally last week and was like, oh my gosh, look at these bills. What are we gonna do? And in that moment, I said, you know what? Let me get on the church website. I've already paid my tithes. Let me give another offering. By the time I got home, a bill had been completely wiped off. A nice hefty bill had been completely wiped off of the board. You know what I mean? So it's like, you make that turning point, and you're forever seeing the fruits of making the right decision, which makes you anxious to see what's the next one. What's the next one?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, all right. So to wrap up, we had turning point faith, active faith, gritty faith, right? The first one is assess your situation, recognize the turning point. Point 2 is get you a gritty mindset and a gritty circle. And 3 is always look for your next turning point.
Yeah.
Always look for your next elevation in God. Faith to faith. Glory to glory. Yeah?
Yeah, level up.
Any closing remarks?
Yes, I think this was fun.
This was fun.
Your nurse practitioners are always here for you. In the absence of the faith doctors, we'll hold it down.
So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you have learned something. I hope you took something from this that is going to help you enhance your faith walk, that just encourages you for the rest of your day, for the rest of the week. If this message has blessed you, if you want to just sow into Living by Faith Christian Center, we have 4 simple ways to give. The first one is online at our website, livingbyfaithcc.org. You can click on the online giving tab. Number 2 is Givelify. You go to the Givelify app, search Living by Faith Christian Center. You'll see a picture of our pastors. The third one is you can mail a check or money order to P.O. Box 178, Adamsville, Alabama 35005. Am I missing anything else?
The fourth one is Cash App, The Faith Haven.
Yeah.
On Cash App.
Or if you happen to be at church,
drop it in the bucket.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, guys. So we have had fun with you today.
Yeah.
We hope you had fun with us. And
Share.
Yeah, share it.
Share.
Get the
Share
word
this
out.
of
Share
faith.
it.
Yeah.
Come back, join us. You can come in person. We would prefer you to come in person and worship with us this Sunday. Service starts at 9 a.m. If you're unable to physically be in the house, join us online, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. And until next time, keep living by faith.